Welcome to the MTD Podcast, the secrets to success. I'm Giovanni Albanese, a passionate engineer and a very proud member of the MTD team. In today's podcast, we will be discussing the secrets to success with a real-life engineer in a modern-day engineering facility. Today, I have the pleasure to be joined by two very special guests. Firstly, my partner in crime and the Swarf Guru himself, Mr. Joe Reynolds. Welcome to the podcast, Joe.
Hi, Gio.
And secondly, I have the pleasure to be joined by a good friend, someone that we've visited on many of occasions and becoming a bit famous on MTD, Darren Grainger, owner of Hi-Spec Precision and a very successful engineer. And the purpose of this podcast really is to get a perspective from a real life engineer that's on the ground manufacturing, and to get his opinion on how to be successful in engineering. Welcome to the MTD Podcast. Welcome, Darren.
All right, fellas, how you doing?
No, it's brilliant, Darren, and thank you very much for joining us, my friend.
No worries.
Joe, going to start with you, really. We've spoken about stuff like this all the time, on the phone, in the car, travelling here, travelling there. You know, we're really privileged, really, to see so many manufacturing workshops in the role we do. And we've obviously got our opinions on how to be successful in engineering, but, you know, this is going to be a fantastic podcast, but because it's great to get the perspective of a real engineer. Joe, firstly, give me your thoughts on this podcast and what we're looking to get from it.
Well, good to be on, Gio. Thanks for the invite. But to be honest, Darren follows the blueprint, and I know you'll tell us more about his business as this podcast matures, but it's essentially, it's reducing human interaction, whether that's from a software perspective, a hardware, combination of the two, getting hands-off parts and getting robot grippers on them. Just taking the human element out of the business and just any low-skilled labour upskill, and any high-skilled labour upskill them as well. That's how I look at it, regardless of your sector, your machine type. I'd be looking to automate and, just take human intervention out of any process, anything down from raising an invoice to parting off a job.
Yeah, I mean, Darren has certainly been practicing what MTD preach without a shadow of a doubt. Now, Darren, you know, I think you've got the perfect blueprint, like Joe alluded to, in regards to your facility. You know, you've been investing heavily through a pandemic, and you've got a fantastic business model in engineering, when a lot of companies have kind of been reluctant to spend and invest and holding back. But before we go into the infrastructure in your business and what you have invested in and the reasons why, can you firstly just give our audience a little bit of a background about you, why you got into engineering and your history?
Yeah, sure. I mean, going right back to the beginning, I got into engineering pretty much following on for what my dad did. He was a turner in a big engineering company in Peterborough, and then some smaller ones after that. And it seemed to be a good career to go into. He had never been out of work. So I went on to college from school to do engineering courses, which weren't fantastic at the time. So after about 6 months, I left that to actually go to work and then do training whilst working, actually at the place my dad worked. I spent 2 years on the shop floor and then got in the drawing office. So progressed in the drawing office, as well as doing my ONCs, my HNCs, and numerous other qualifications. Ended up as technical manager of the company we worked at, and it kind of went from there. It was because my dad had a stroke, it's like 18 years ago. It kind of highlighted, if you're going to work hard, work for yourself. And I started up Hi-Spec in 2004, and it's gone from there, basically.
I love that. I love the fact of if you're going to work hard, work for yourself. There's so many people that think, my father used to say to me, get a trade, get a career, that will give you security. And I always used to think completely the opposite, because your career is determined by the success of that company. So you haven't got any security to a certain degree. And I think that by only working for yourself, you will become the master of your own destiny and be able to achieve whatever you want to achieve. Working for someone else, there'll always be a certain ceiling there, maybe. Joe, like you are a bit of an entrepreneurial kind of guy. And tell us your thought process on, the engineering industry has changed so much over the years, massively, and we're going to get into that now, and the reasons why Darren had to invest in some of the technology that we're going to be discussing. But some people look at new technology as scary. They've got a fear to change, a little bit like what Darren did when he had to take the leap of faith from working for somebody else to starting his own business. There's always that fear factor. And I think that maybe embracing this, some of this latest technology is similar. Joe, do you agree?
Yeah, I do. I think 5, 6, 7 years ago, I get it, but now there's such compelling reasons to. I don't really get an argument not to. I guess it depends on what level you call latest technology. Is Darren going to spend £2 million on a hybrid machine? He may say yes. In all likelihood, he's going to say no at this stage. But if we talk technology, which is the type of technology that Darren engages in, I don't think there's an excuse. The deals now, not just the list price, but the different ways you can purchase a machine. You can lease a machine, you can rent a machine, you can have it on loan. Pretty much every option is available to you. It's easy for me to say, but I think you've just got to. You've got to put that toe in that water. You've got to upskill your people. You've got to bring in the latest technology into your business, or certainly better than you've currently got. And to be honest, the people we see, like Darren, it doesn't. Before you know it, the next one's in. Like, I know we'll go on to Dan's automation and his methodology in a while, but he seems to be buying a machine every 6 months at the moment, and I'm presuming he hasn't won the lottery. I'm presuming that first bit of technology is reaped rewards. He's had a little taste for it, and he's continued to invest to hopefully make his company prosper for many years to come.
Yeah, it's a brilliant success story, and it's lovely to keep reporting on some of these positive stories, such as yourself, Darren. So Darren, you started Hi-Spec about 18 years ago. What was your aspirations back then? What did you start manufacturing? And talk us through your journey, really, and how you quickly learned that you needed to invest in some of the latest technology to be competitive.
Right. I mean, you go right back to the beginning. We had, what did we have? We had a Herbert pillar drill, 1960s Colchester roundhead lathe, and a Beaver turret mill. And originally, the sort of idea was, because my dad's stroke was bad enough to mean he couldn't work a full-time normal job, it was to give my dad some rehabilitation, to give him something to work his mind to. And whilst he lost the ability to read and speak, he could still read numbers. He could still read engineering drawings, which is bizarre. So, we started off making very simple parts as overflow production for the company I worked at. I worked full-time as well as starting Hi-Spec for a year and a half. And then over a period of time, it soon became apparent that I really needed to put everything into it and give it a go. So we bought the CNC lathe because it soon became apparent, we couldn't be producing radii on parts or tapers and that sort of thing to the quality people wanted with the manual lathe. So we bought our first CNC in December 2004, which was one of the Colchester flatbeds. And then it kind of builds up. We've never put machines in and then gone and looked for the work. It's always because we've had the work or the desire to be able to do something different with what we do. So it's gradually grown from there to then adding the turner centre with a bar feed, so you're not having to stand by it. And then your CNC mills and so on. And just gradually got more and more and more.
And what kind of work did you do and are you still doing now, Darren?
My history in my previous employment was hydraulics industry, hydraulic cylinders primarily. So that's where we started. We were making parts for hydraulic rams. We were making parts for machinery that uses hydraulic rams, simple bosses and pins for ploughs and crop sprayers and all of that sort of gear, really. And we still make a lot of the same kind of parts now. So certain things have become more exacting and more complex. Some of the valve work, surface finishes, tolerances, all of that. But yeah, I mean, we're still heavily involved in the hydraulic sector. We do a lot into the aggregate sector, the rock crushing machinery. That's partly because of where we are. Leicestershire has got a big quarry and mining manufacturing base, so it seems daft not to tap into that. And yeah, if somebody wants something doing and we can do it at the right price, then we do. Doesn't matter if it's a washer or a pin.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Darren, I'm always intrigued. How do you go to market? You'll have a website, I know you're active on LinkedIn and what have you, but how do you get more work? How do you go about, sourcing new work?
We've been so busy over the last 5 or 6 years, I've tended to move away from new work. If people do come on, it's a very careful consideration if we take on new customers, because the last thing I want to do is upset the ones I've been dealing with for years by taking capacity away from somebody new. In the early days, it was a lot of word of mouth, networking, so to speak, but knowing people, getting given the chance to supply, and building on that. You do a good job, hopefully people come back, and you work hard at it.
Yeah, no, I think that what you're saying is absolutely priceless, really. I mean, it's bonkers, isn't it, when you kind of think that there's engineers and manufacturers out there at the minute really worried, not competitive, struggling to think from, not sure where their next work's going to come from, and you're not looking for new work. I think that says it all for me. I think that really highlights and identifies that at this present moment in time, you are definitely doing something right. And let's talk about what we feel that you are doing right now, Darren. I mean, it was a couple of years ago, and we had this conversation before we started recording the podcast, but it was only a couple of years ago when I first met you, when you had your first robo job on your CMZ lathe. And I can remember talking to you back then, and you said to me, Joe, I've only got this robo job because I was too busy just running around all the machines. And I had to kind of try and free up my time to start running the business. And that was about 2 years ago. Now, since then, things have changed drastically. So can you kind of tell our audience what's changed? No, actually, before we go into what's changed since then, can you tell our kind of audience, how did you feel like before you took that leap of faith into a robot? Were you scared? Did you have any hesitancy?
Not really. I mean, from my point of view, it was another machine. It was another part of the machine. The setup of the robo job, the information that HydroFeed gave us in the initial quote stages, it just looked so easy. You're concerned that how's it going to integrate with the machine, or how's it going to do this, or how's it going to do that? And as a user, you really don't have to concern yourself because HydroFeed, RoboJob just cover it, and you get a system which is there, it's easy to use, and if you think carefully at the beginning about what you want it to do, within reason, you'll be able to get it to do what you want it to do. If you want to have a CMM or a market machine all built into a cell, then yeah, I'm sure they can accommodate that. So it's.
I mean, the point I'm trying to get at, though, Darren, there's some people or engineers that are reluctant to take the leap of faith into automation for whatever reason that is. I mean, in the UK, we're so slow at adopting automation. And I think COVID has certainly accelerated, the new emerging technologies. But you did that before the pandemic. You took that leap of faith. You identified that you needed a robot to run the machine and not a man. You identified that, I don't need to be, manning this machine and changing parts. A robot can do it for me. But did you have any hesitation? Where did your confidence come from just to go and invest in that first robot? Did you think it would work before you'd even purchased it? I think these are the kind of questions I'm trying to get at. I mean, you've identified the pain point, and that pain point was your time. You needed to release some of your time, and you found a solution. But did you know before the robo job arrived that it was going to work?
I had every faith it was going to work. I mean, from before I started my own business, you would see in various industrial magazines and such, big companies, massive blue chip companies with robot cells, and you knew that was how you would move forward without the need to involve people. Not that I've got any problem with employing people, but it's not easy. You've been to my place. I'm in the middle of nowhere for a start. The skill shortage and everything else. So you kind of know that robots are an option. So when it got to the stage where we needed to do something, that tends to be what forces it. You can go so long doing it a certain way, and after the lad that used to run the two machines left to go and be motor vehicle mechanic, and I had to step in there as well as doing what I was doing anyway. You think, well, yeah, I can do this for a few weeks or whatever, but long term, it's not the option. So you either get another person, which would be difficult, or you get a robot or a piece of automation or something to do that. And yeah, I mean, I had every faith it would work.
Yeah, and the good news with the robot, of course, we all know they don't need to socially distance. They're happy to work Christmas Day and all the rest of it. But the perception is, I hear all the time, I only do batches of 20, 30, 50, maybe 100. I need to do thousands to invest in a robot, but it just isn't true, isn't it? That the way to make money is automating low volumes.
Yeah. Whilst we do big numbers, hundreds, thousands, particularly bar feed stuff is in those numbers, most of our hand-fed billet work will be 10, 20, 50, 100. I set a job on there this morning that ran out that was 50, but it only took 3 hours to do 50. But whilst it was doing that, I was setting another machine. So otherwise, 2-minute cycle, I wouldn't have been able to get off that machine and do something else.
And what would you estimate? How many hours does it run on its own in a week?
Because of the variation in the amount of jobs we do and the work we do, it's a little hard to say, but it will be running at least 70, 80% of the week on cycle, with the balance being set up.
Yeah, because people look at a VMC and they think they're 20, 30, 50, 80% efficient, whatever it is. But I can tell you it's always 50% what they tell you it is. You walk down a machine shop and there's more red lights than green typically. And it just staggers me how more people don't invest in automation, even if it is straightforward automation. You don't need to spend £250,000 on the cell, do you? You can have fairly cost-effective, low entry point automation.
Yeah. I think that. Sorry, Darren.
No, you go.
Yeah. I was going to say, I just like agreeing with what Joe said. Joe said. Really, I think that with automation, it ultimately can make you more profitable. You're changing your machines into money printing machines, and I always used to in my past role sell bar feeders, short and long bar feeders, and you never see a sliding head without a long bar feeder. It's standard with that machine, and obviously in the past, and this is in the past, you'd associate bar feeders with just very high volume repeat work, and effectively the automation was built in, and effectively it was just like a money printing machine. They'd run 24/7. And there'd be a Ferrari outside the building. And once you've got one sliding head in there, you'd have several of them in there, just printing, machining parts away. But that philosophy has never been, until maybe recently now, it has never really been adopted in all the different other engineering arenas. I think that, OEMs used to always purchase or add on third-party automation solutions, but now they're providing their own automation solutions because, due to the market change and demand, it's absolutely and utterly essential that engineers use automation to stay competitive, not just, in the UK amongst ourselves, but globally, more importantly. And I think that you probably started your automation journey before others, Darren, and I think that you're kind of now reaping the rewards from your kind of foresight, if you like, and looking into the future and realizing what you need to be able to be successful. Because I've been in no end of engineering companies and met small engineering companies where they are still doing it how you were doing it, and they still haven't took the leap of faith into automation. They've had to run the machines themselves as an owner of a company, and employing person to person, and for me, I think that a man should be doing the process development, should be doing the process improvements, the programming, the juicy things in engineering, the nice bits about engineering, not just the loading and the deloading of the part. And you've nailed it, Darren. Tell our audience about, since that first robo job, what's happened to your business and And how fast did you invest then in your second big investment into automation?
The first robo job come in, and almost immediately you could stand back and go, why didn't I do this sooner? So Ashley from Hydrofeed come down to do a site visit, after it was up and running, and he just stood there and, it's good, nice tidy sale. I said, okay, quote me for the Herco. And it was, I think it took a couple of weeks to get the quote in for the Herco, and it was on order. There was no question. It was that easy to see, that apparent. It made that much difference, and that's the best thing when you get the investments right. That almost immediately you can see how much difference it'll make. Then, it's absolutely spot on.
Time is money, isn't it, Joe?
Indeed, yeah, indeed. It's exactly that. It's I go to a lot of SMEs, sub 20 people, if you like, and the amount of owner drivers, as we call them, operators, stood there. When I say operators, I mean owners of businesses, standing there loading billets. And don't get me wrong, we've all done it, we've all grafted, and we're not scared of grafting, but financially it doesn't stack up, does it? It just doesn't make sense. That if you look at a robot, even if you finance that robot, it's cheaper than a human being. So, and the more efficient.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah, and moving on from the robo jobs investments now, like Darren, the second robo job's not the only investment you've made in the last 2 years. You just seem to be going from strength to strength, and before we get onto our next questions, can you just give our audience a little bit of an indication on what you've invested in the last 2 years, especially in the last few months, in the midst of a big pandemic?
Yeah, sure. So we had the first big investment, which was the 3 CMZ lathes, and they landed January 2019. Then around April time, the first robo job was put on one of the CMZs. The other 2 CMZs have got bar feeds. And then October time in that year, we had the Herco 5-axis have its robo job installed. A month or so later, we had a Mideco pallet changer put on another one of the Herco verticals. And then I gave it a rest for about 5-6 months. Not tell a lie, 3 or 4 months. And that's when we bought a CMZ, another CMZ lathe with the gantry. We went for the gantry because of the floor space, the gantry being over the machine. It didn't take up the same amount of space. And then I thought, that's it. I went by the machines for about 3 months. And then we ordered the Kitamura 10 pallet machine that got delivered 2 or 3 weeks ago. I forgot the CNC CMM machine that came about 4 weeks ago.
It's not right. It's not right if you don't check it.
No, this is it.
If it's not measured.
Well, you know what? I've done technical corners today with Zeiss, and honestly, there's too many. Again, this is a story for another day. But there's too many engineers out there that look at inspection as a completely different process to machining. Inspection costs you money, machining makes you money. But just like automation, in my opinion, you need to look at everything as a complete process to get the best process. And one massive question really for you, Darren, which really will sum this podcast up, would you, say for example, you didn't invest in that robo job 2 years ago, your first robo job, you didn't invest in that. Where would you be now? Could you still be competitive? Could you? Where would you be?
Realistically, I think if we'd followed the path we were otherwise on, we'd have struggled to have got skilled guys. That would have reduced the amount we were capable of doing. And therefore we wouldn't have been putting out as much as we do, and therefore profit margins, they have gone up. The output, the physical sales, the turnover has risen slightly, but my head count has gone down tremendously. And that's not because people have lost their jobs, that's because of retirement. We lost 3-4 people within the space of 6 months back in 2018, I think it was. And you can't replace that skill immediately. So, yeah, we wouldn't be where we are without the automation. And I've got no doubt in saying that. So.
Yeah, no, I mean, Joe, it speaks for itself, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm not surprised you've said that. And I think if we asked you that question in another 4 or 5 years, it'd be worse still, wouldn't it? I think people think you might need to automate to go and get new work. I think it's getting to a stage where if you don't automate, you're going to lose the work you've got. And it's so yeah. I don't know how many ways I can say it. Really, just less hands-on parts. Just even cycle time becomes less important. I know that sounds ridiculous, but you're better off having that spindle cut in, 90% of the week rather than 25% of the week, and yeah, of course, look at your cycle time, but more importantly, keep that spindle moving and making you money. But just a quick one for me, Darren. I know what you've got engineering's your first love, apart from your family, of course. But you've got another love, your guitars. Just tell us briefly about that.
Yeah, well, me and my brother have been playing guitar since we were about 13. We played in bands together. And about 5 years ago, we decided to have a crack at making one. When you look at the videos of the factories these things are made on, particularly the American brands, it's all Haas and Faber machines, and it's like, oh well, I've got a factory with some of these type of things in. We'll have a crack at this, and we made a couple, enjoyed doing it, so we made a couple more, and gradually we built up our own brand of guitars and guitar parts that we sell all around the world. And in 5 years of doing it, sort of day and a half a week, we've made and sold 50 instruments and a hell of a lot of guitar parts.
No, mate, I love the guitars. They're absolutely awesome, and look forward to being invited to one of your gigs, Darren. More importantly, just to summarise from me, really, thank you very much for giving MTD an insight into your business and a real life example of what it means to invest, and it's not just a gimmick. We've been banging on about it for so long, and beating the drum since I started at MTD 3 years ago, and I think people have finally started to listen. But it's not just the automation, is it, Darren? You've invested multi-millions of pounds into lots of new technology, and just for me, really, how important is investment in this industry to stay competitive? That's my last question for you, mate. And for all our listeners out there, if you've got any questions or you've got any doubts in regards to investment, give Darren a call.
Investment is key. If we stayed doing what we were doing, we'd still be turning on Herbert capstan legs for production purposes. Everyone's got a Herbert. I've got a Herbert or a Ward or whatever it be, but you only use them for bits and bobs these days. You're not expecting them to be the primary production equipment. If you don't move with the times, then you will eventually disappear. And if you look at a process that you've got to do in your workshop, and you investigate different ways of doing it, and you find that you've got, I don't know, let's say one man doing a job on a manual mill and it takes him half an hour, or you've got one man running 2 VMCs that are producing X amount of parts in half an hour against that one man's one. It doesn't take long before the penny drops. The recent investment in CMM that we've made, I was originally looking at a manual CMM, and during the demo, they just happened to show me the CNC one.
Mm-hmm.
And almost immediately, it's like, well, when you're setting the CNC side of this machine, this CMM, you're doing the manual process. You're moving it, you're touching the part where you need to touch it, and then at the end, you just press play and it will repeat it. It's like, well, why would you have a manual CMM? So all of a sudden, my inspector, he can go and put something on the bed, he can press play, he can then walk off and do something else, come back and the machine will tell him. And it's that technology that's then allowing you to get more out of the skilled people. And, that's really key.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, it's not just about the technology, it's about embracing that technology and using that technology to its full potential to benefit your business. Joe, any last thoughts?
No, I think you can see where I'm coming from. Continue to invest. Tax advantages we haven't talked about, but there are a few out there. Just do what you can. Speak to people with Darren. You can find them on LinkedIn. There's other people like Darren that invest in technology, and it's fair to say Darren's he's not a £30 million business. He's a good old SME, and if Darren's doing it, you can too.
Joe, been an absolute pleasure as always. The Swarf Guru himself, Mr. Joe Reynolds. Darren, thank you very much, my friend. It's been an absolute pleasure. Can't wait to revisit your company soon and look at all the new work holding pallets that you've filled up now. And I'm looking forward to find out what you've gone for. For our listeners, thank you very much for listening. I hope you've enjoyed this podcast. Please let us know what you think of this podcast with any comments. If you've got any questions, let us know. But until next week, the MTD Podcast.
Thanks for listening to the MTD Podcast. If you found value in this episode, please subscribe and leave a rating and review. Find more episodes on mtdcnc.com.